They couldn't get over the hump, and they lost. They lost, and I'm highly, highly disappointed because this team was the favorite. Because I thought this year was gonna be different. Like I legit thought this was gonna be their year. Hello and welcome to the Monday, June 21st edition of the TV on Basketball podcast with your host, TV. Hope you're all having a fantastic day and thank you for clicking on to watch or listen to today's episode. Before we start, I do have to plug my other platforms. Remember to follow at TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for updates on the podcast and for other awesome content. If you're on YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss an episode. If you're on any of the podcast networks, subscribe and leave a review if you're on Apple, and just show your support in any way possible through Spotify, Anchor, or Podbean. I really do appreciate you guys all. I'm almost at 3,000 downloads for the podcast, which is another great milestone. Again, thank you guys for all the support. Just got some extra oomph to talk about basketball because of the NBA playoffs, and man, this weekend is no exception to that. I'm going to try to keep this in under an hour, but man, there's just so much to talk about, and I'm excited to talk about it on today's episode. I'm going to be talking about, obviously, the crazy Game 7 stuff like that. Going to be previewing all the new series for the Western and Eastern Conference Finals. And there was a trade happened over the weekend, which I didn't expect myself, but we are definitely going to get into it as well. But yeah, just an action-packed weekend of NBA basketball and a lot of news, so going to be discussing it here today. Again, show your support in any way possible. I do appreciate all of you. But yeah, it's going to be a good episode today, so just sit back, relax, and let's get right into the first topic. Now the question is, I'm still deliberating on this. Do I start off with Game 7 of the Bucks Nets series, or do I start off with Game 7 of the Hawks 76ers? You know what? Let's go to Hawks 76ers. You know, let's do that, because I was, even to this moment, I was thinking, I'm like, do we start off with the Bucks Nets? I'm like, no. We're going Hawks 76ers because oh man. There is a lot to talk about. Okay, let's start off in Game 6, because Game 6, Philly bounced back. They won this game 104-99. The Hawks started off really good in the beginning. They kind of slowed down near the end after the Philly defense just absolutely stepped up. Joel Embiid 22 and 13, but the real heroes of this game were Seth Curry 24 points and Tobias Harris with 24 as well. And also Tyrese Maxey played a big role because Doc Rivers put out a bold move and took Ben Simmons out for the majority of the fourth quarter because of the hack-a-Simmons strategy. It was really affecting them, so they went with Tyrese Maxey, and he put up a good performance. The Hawks, Trae Young gave them quite a bit, but besides that, Kevin Huerter gave him 17. There just wasn't much to really discuss here. They did try, but, they just couldn't close it out. But Game 7, oh boy, Game 7. The Hawks bounce back, and they pull off the upset. And yes, I am saying this is an upset because everyone thought Philly was going to win the series. Game 7, the Hawks beat the Sixers 103-96. The 76ers, got a good performance from Joel Embiid once again. You knew that he was going to perform 31 and 11. Tobias Harris, 24 points, 24 shots. Seth Curry, another 16-point performance, solid. But man, the story of this game was that, one, Trae Young was not playing well. Trae Young was not playing well this game. Arguably the worst game he's had all playoffs long. 21-10 looks good, but when you take into the fact that he was 5 for 23 from the field, 2 for 11 from 3, it makes it less nice. It definitely makes it less nice, but he was still affecting the game in so many different aspects. But, man, the Atlanta Hawks got an unexpected hero in this game to carry them to this victory, and it was Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter, 27 points, 7 rebounds, 10 for 18 shooting. And he did a lot of his damage on Seth Curry. He's 6'7". Seth is 6'1", 6'2". And he just kept shooting over him over and over again. And that was a big strategy for the Atlanta Hawks. Would you want to rely on Kevin Huerter in a 7-game series? Probably not, but he stepped up this game and he played a massive role, man. He played extremely well, and he helped carry that offense. Let's be completely honest, because Trae wasn't really getting hitting those shots that he's used to hitting. John Collins gave them a bit. They got a bit from Clint Capella. Gallinari was fantastic off the bench, but at the end of the day, their number one guy wasn't hitting shots, but the other guys helped out, which was absolutely massive. But the thing is, man, the Philadelphia 76ers, obviously, congrats to the Hawks. They won the series. Everyone counted them out. They were the young, unexperienced team, and people completely wrote them off in the series, and they proved everyone wrong. The 76ers, they looked shot. They looked absolutely shot in this game, and you could point to a lot of different reasons. I mean, obviously, Joel Embiid had a good game. Tobias Harris was aggressive, although it wasn't great from the field. He was still aggressive. But, man, that's Ben... Actually, no, I'll talk about Ben Simmons later. But the 76ers, this was their year. This was 100% their year. And the thing is, if you look at the path to the championship, they had the easiest path by far out of any of these Final Four teams. The Atlanta Hawks, obviously, this is their first playoff. This is their first playoff run with Trae Young, so they didn't have the experience with this core group of guys. When you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they had to face their demons in the Miami Heat. Well, before we knew they were bad, but at the end of the day, it's there was like a lot of talk that the Miami Heat could actually beat the Bucks, and they ended up sweeping them. And yes, the Bucks had to go up against a limping Brooklyn Nets team, but still, it's the Brooklyn Nets. You're going up against KD. When you look at the Philadelphia path, they had to go through the Washington Wizards, who, let's be honest, no one. We knew that the 76ers were going to dominate, which they did. And then they had either of the Hawks or the Knicks. And both of those teams don't have experience. The 76ers have been here before. They've been to multiple second-round series with this core group of guys, with Embiid, with Ben Simmons. They go into here as favorites. I had them winning the series in 6. But they just couldn't step up. They just couldn't step up to the plate. They couldn't get over the hump. And they lost. They lost, and I'm highly, highly disappointed because this team was the favorite. Because I thought this year was gonna be different. Like I legit thought it was gonna be their year, but no, it wasn't. I mean, if we just look at this Game 7 in general, I mean, they committed so many silly turnovers, and Embiid with 8 of them. I mean, that's unacceptable from your star, but he still put up 31 and 11. So how mad can you really get? They just couldn't get stuff going. They couldn't hit the 3 ball. And the thing was, this was their prime opportunity to win, especially because Trae Young was playing so bad. But they just couldn't take advantage, man. They just couldn't take advantage of it. Obviously, we're going to get to Ben Simmons later. We will. Because when I get to my awards, I'm going to do my Ben Simmons rant there. But the 76ers just, again, another series where they just couldn't pull it out late. And when it came to Game 7... and I was asked by a couple of guys in the community saying, okay, who do you got in Game 7? I said the Hawks because I just do not trust this team in crunch time. And this is the same thing here once again. Who are they going to? Who are they going to in crunch time? Another game in Game 7 where Trae Young actually hit a couple shots, but he still got help from Gallinari. Kevin Huerter was still hitting shots late in this game. And the 76ers didn't have any of that. And that, again, led to their downfall. Doc Rivers did not do a good job adjusting, especially... since the Hawks really focused in on trying to remove Ben Simmons as a threat on the offensive end completely. Doc Rivers didn't make the right adjustments. Another second-round exit for him. I mean, they brought him in to change things, and although Embiid did play a lot better this year, same results, man, same results. And, you know, Doc Rivers is not exempt from any blame here, but... you know, I don't want to put all the blame on him, but goodness gracious, he did not do a good job coaching the series. He got absolutely outcoached by Nick McMillan here. And yeah, but congratulations to the Hawks. I mean, like I said, no one had them winning in the series. Trae Young, this is only his 3rd NBA season, and he's leading this team. Even though he didn't play good yesterday, he was still their leader. He was still setting up guys. He was still fantastic. But in other aspects of the game. And he just knows how to get the best out of the players around him. And again, yesterday was just another example. So congrats to the Hawks. They knew their game plan. They stuck to it. These guys fought hard. There were so many times in the series where it looked like there were chances where the Hawks were going to be down and out. But they bounced back. They had that 26-point comeback. they played so well. They played so well. And as much as you want to say that the 76ers lost this, the Hawks were the underdog, and they were up to the task, and they beat the 76ers. So I know I was bashing a lot on the 76ers, and I'm going to continue to, as we go into these awards, but you got to give all the respect in the world to the Atlanta Hawks. Congrats to them. Congrats to Trae Young for actually stepping up and playing absolutely fantastic. But I'm going to go into these awards for the series, like I do with every other series. And we're going to start off with MVP. And plain and simple, I'm going to go Trae Young. Trae Young, apart from Game 7 there, was absolutely phenomenal in this series. 29 points a game, 11 assists, 1.7 steals, 85% from the line. Only 40% from 3 and 32% from the 3-point line. But you could tell that he was just setting people up. He was the emotional leader. This guy just knew how to, like I said earlier, just know how to get the best in his guys. And he's just such a great motivator. He's such a great leader. He did so well in the series. He was their best player by far. Trae Young, MVP, no questions asked. And we really got to, have this conversation about him being in top 5 point guard discussions, man. I know he can't really defend. Trust me, I know that. But he's getting up to that level, especially if he continues to play well in the Eastern Conference Finals. You got to start giving him some respect, man. Trae Young has been such a good player in these playoffs. He's made an enemy of 2 teams now. First, the New York Knicks, and now the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, this guy's just breaking hearts left, right, and center. So he's been awesome in the playoffs. He's been giving us so many great moments. Trae Young is definitely the MVP for me for this series. Best bench player, I was gonna give it to Kevin Huerter, but his best game happened as a starter. Once they realized that DeAndre Hunter was out. And they still got the win. Congrats to them for actually still getting the win, even without DeAndre Hunter, who was their best perimeter defender. But the best bench player here, I got to give it to Gallinari. Gallinari was massive in this series. He took advantage of all the mismatches he had, and this guy was just so good, just coming off the bench and providing some form of offense. 15 points a game, 5 rebounds, 46% from the field, 96% from the free throw line, 44% from 3. Plain and simple, they needed some help off the bench. They needed some offensive sparks because John Collins wasn't great throughout the series, but he had his moments. He brought energy and is a good two-way player. They needed some offense, man. They needed some offense at times. And Danilo Gallinari kind of kept the ball rolling when Trae Young was on the bench, hitting those shots. He definitely is the best bench player for the series. Most disappointing. We already know where we're going with this. Let's talk some Ben Simmons. And I've been holding off this entire segment to finally get to this moment. The biggest reason why they lost the series was that Ben Simmons was completely shot. His confidence was shot. And Game 7 was just a perfect encapsulation of what Ben Simmons is as a player and kind of how he is going to be perceived now. Because Ben Simmons, before the season, if you guys remember last year, I made a list of top 5 point guards. I had him as an honorable mention. I thought Ben Simmons is up there with some of the best point guards in the league. I was enamored by his defensive abilities, with his rebounding, with his playmaking. I was like, oh, people talk about his shooting too much. He does so many things so good. This series, man, I am off the Ben Simmons bandwagon. Off completely. Because, especially if we look at Game 7, he provided 5 points, 2 for 4 shooting. He only attempted 4 shots, 8 rebounds, 13 assists, and fair enough, only 2 turnovers. This is Ben Simmons. He only attempted 1 or 2 free throws today, so he shot 50%, woohoo. But he looked so shocked. He did not want the ball. And everyone's going to be talking about that play because it just makes the most sense. He had the ball, spun, I believe it was on Kevin Huerter or someone. He had a wide open dunk, but he saw Trae Young coming. He was afraid he was going to get fouled, and he gave it to Matisse Thybulle, who got fouled, and he hit 1 or 2 free throws. So they had a wide open dunk, which turned into a 1 free throw. And Embiid mentioned that after the game. He was like, I think the game turned around when a wide open dunk turned into 1 free throw made. Ben Simmons, I am completely off the bandwagon because this whole hack of Ben Simmons thing, he was scared to touch the ball. He was afraid to be aggressive. He lost all the juice. He lost all confidence. In the playoffs, he's averaging 33% from the free throw line. That is just unacceptable at an NBA level for a point guard. Look, at least with Giannis, I mean, people complain about the free throws and how long he takes, but at least he's trying to improve it. He is trying whatever he can to improve it. And we're going to talk about in the closeout game, he actually was solid from the free throw line. Ben Simmons, when he's not hitting free throws, he's avoiding it at all costs. And it cost him the series. I thought that the other aspects of his game was going to help lift his, kind of not devalue, but kind of mitigate the other, bad aspects of his game. But those bad aspects were shown throughout this entire series, and they're just too hard to ignore. The 76ers have to blow this up. This is, you can't go into next season with the same core. I do have a feeling, obviously they're not getting rid of Embiid. He is a MVP candidate. And I don't think they can get rid of Tobias Harris just yet. But Ben Simmons needs to be out of there. He really does. And the worst part is his trade value is at his absolute lowest. But they have to. They cannot go into the season with the same core. I refuse to accept the fact that they're going to do that. And Ben Simmons, man, he had all the opportunities, like I said. But he just could not get over the hump. He couldn't get over the mental aspect of the game. And he lost the series for the 76ers. Like I said, I thought he was a borderline top 5 point guard last year. I'm completely off the bandwagon. Unless he shows me drastic improvements in his shooting ability. And I'm not saying a 40% 3-point shooter. No, I don't need him to be elite. We need him to be average. We need him to be average or even slightly below average. I don't know. Just compatible. Just compatible Ben Simmons. And we just couldn't get compatible this series. I mean, so disappointed. I was such I would be defending Ben Simmons a lot, man. I defended him a lot, but I can't now. I just can't. I absolutely can't. I just can't believe that happened. And I mean, this is the award for most disappointing. Oh boy, did he disappoint bad! And I was trying to make a case for Tobias Harris, but after yesterday's performance, it has to be Ben Simmons, no question about it. Most disappointing. I'm done talking about this, man. Unless the 76ers show me something, man. I am completely off their wagon. And Ben Simmons, I'm completely off the Ben Simmons hype train. Catch me, just drop me off at the next station, please. That was embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. And a favorite moment of the series. I know, we're switching back to this, but my favorite moment of the series has to be the Hawks comeback. Again, another situation where the 76ers just couldn't pull it out late. That Hawks comeback, 20 plus point deficit. It was crazy. I honestly wasn't shocked just watching that game. Good for them. They were able to make the comeback. That was my favorite moment of the series. I know this went long. I said this might be a bit close to an hour, but goodness gracious, that was a crazy series. Congrats to the Hawks. The 76ers need to make major changes. And oh boy, it's not going to stop there because we got to talk about this Bucks Nets series. The Bucks win the series 4-3 and eliminate the Brooklyn Nets. In Game 6, I should go really quickly with this. The Bucks beat the Brooklyn Nets 104-89. We knew they were going to bounce back. After that KD 49-point performance and the way that they kind of folded in the fourth quarter, you knew the Milwaukee Bucks were going to bounce back. And they did so in a big way, and they were able to pull out that victory. Chris Middleton was fantastic that game, too. I mean, Giannis had a great game. He had over 30 points, another double-double, 30 and 17. But Chris Middleton, 11 for 16 shooting, 38 points. He was masterful. He was absolutely masterful. He was taking advantage of any matchup he had, and he just kept hitting shot after shot after shot. We knew they were going to bounce back. Good Game 6 win. But Game 7 is what we're going to talk about here. And, man, Game of the Year? Game of the Year? I know I say this maybe every other episode, but, man, this game was absolutely fantastic. And the Bucks were able to pull out the win, 115-111. You knew in this game both teams wanted it because they barely played their bench. Both of them barely played their bench. And if you look at just the bench total scoring from both their benches, 9 points total. Not only was 9 points total, all those 9 points came from one guy, and that was Pat Connaughton. So shout out to Pat. His threes actually were kind of run stoppers. the Brooklyn Nets would go on a crazy run, and then Connaughton would hit a three and kind of halt that to keep the Bucks within striking distance. Then man, you both knew these teams wanted to win. And that battle between Giannis and KD kind of lived up to the hype. It absolutely delivered. KD with 49 points in this game. 48 points in this game. Absolutely fantastic. And then Giannis. We're going to get into him later, but man, this guy performed in a closeout game on the road. 40 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists. 8 for 14 shooting. Good job, Giannis. Good job. And man, this was just a fun game back and forth. And in the fourth quarter, you could tell KD, Giannis, they were down and out. They were tired as hell, man. You could tell in their body language. You could tell the way they were kind of laboring on the court. They gave it everything they had. And in the Game 7, it really did feel like, it was going to be a tough, spell to come back. But in that fourth quarter, they got some good production from the other guys as well. Blake Griffin was hitting some shots. James Harden hitting some key shots. Bruce Brown keeping possessions alive for the Nets. They really did help KD out in that fourth quarter. Same thing with the Bucks. Both Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton played absolutely horrible for 3 quarters, but they came through in the fourth. Chris Middleton was like 9 for 26 in this game, but he hit some big shots in the fourth, and I'm going to get into overtime very shortly. Jrue Holiday, absolutely horrible. If the Bucks lost this game, I was going to bring a lot of that on Jrue Holiday, and then we're going to be talking about, that trade package and stuff like that. That was going to be something we were going to be discussing. But no, Jrue Holiday, 10 points in the fourth quarter. He kept them in it. He hit some big-time shots. Look, some people are going to say it's not how you hit them, it's when you hit them, and Jrue Holiday hit him at the best time, and the Bucks really did benefit from him. In that stretch in that fourth quarter. Especially, like I said, Giannis just looked gas. Giannis looked gas on the bench. This guy was, like, holding on to, like, he was grabbing his knees the entire fourth quarter. He really did try, man. But the good thing is the other guy stepped up. And it looked like they were going to have this win with 6 seconds left. But, Coach Bud almost coached him out this game. That was another just a badly coached game from Coach Bud. There was a time with 8 seconds left. He called a timeout and tried to run a play, and then Brook Lopez just held the ball, and there was a shot clock violation. Come on, Coach Bud. This is not what the type of play you need to make. 8 seconds left in a closeout game, Game 7. That almost cost him the game. And Kevin Durant, man. Kevin Durant just did Kevin Durant type things. Because 6 seconds left, the Bucks need one stop, and they win the series. Kevin Durant drives on PJ Tucker, stops, takes a little step back, turnaround jumper, hits it. And it would have been the game winner, but his toe was on the line. Oh, man. The Brooklyn Nets came this close, maybe an inch away from ending the Bucks series, ending the Bucks season. No, KD had a foot on the line, which forced overtime. And in overtime, it was a struggle fest for both teams. 8 combined points in the overtime, but the Bucks were able to pull it off. They won the quarter 6-2. 2 points in the fourth and in the overtime for Kevin Durant. He was just gassed. Even if you look at his 2 last shots, he just looked absolutely gassed. His teammates couldn't help him out. Gonna get into one guy in particular later, but man, it was tough to watch. But the key in that overtime was that the Bucks just, this is going to sound really stupid, but they got the key buckets. Giannis, with 1.5 minutes left, saw his team struggling, and he put up a hook, which just trickled in to tie the ball game up at 111. And then a few possessions later, Chris Middleton hit the shot of the game, saved the Bucks series, mid-range turnaround jumper, ends the series. The big difference in this game was that late in this game, Giannis had help, Kevin Durant didn't. And I don't want to exempt blame from anyone. Obviously, this series would be a whole lot better without the injuries. But James Harden, you could tell he shouldn't have come back this quickly. He did not look right, but he was there for a threat more than anything. And you gotta just praise him for even trying to do this, because you could tell he was laboring out there. You could tell by the fact that he can't even run a fast break. But he really did try. And, you know, although he didn't play well, I mean, he did what he could. He did what he could. Same thing with Kevin Durant. People who are blaming Kevin Durant for this loss are absolutely crazy. I mean, he was absolutely fantastic in this series. He showed all the heart he possibly could, but they just couldn't pull it off. It's plain and simple. Sometimes just things just don't go their way. I mean, it just wasn't meant to be. His foot was on the line. They could have ended the series there, but it is what it is. And for the Bucks, I mean, like I said, Giannis carried them throughout the first 3 quarters. And then when he was super tired, he got just enough help from Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton to help pull out this win. And I think that was just the biggest difference in this game. And ever since the injuries went down, like just in this series, I mean, congrats to the Milwaukee Bucks for advancing. But yeah, I mean, it just sucked that the injuries really did hurt this team, because this was gonna be a good series. I mean, this was a good series, but obviously, like, injuries just suck. They absolutely suck. And look, I mean, that's was the thing about the Brooklyn Nets. I didn't think they were gonna have any issues in terms of the offensive end, the chemistry. I just knew they were gonna figure that out. But the injuries were gonna derail them, and that's exactly what happened in this game, in this series. Kyrie goes down. Harden had to deal with the hamstring injury throughout the entirety of the second round, and there just wasn't enough help for Kevin Durant. Yes, he's the best player in the world, but at the same time, if you're scoring 48 points, you're doing your best to keep your team alive, and there's only so much a man can do, man. I mean, Kevin Durant did try. He showed a bunch of heart, but it just clearly just wasn't enough. And for the Milwaukee Bucks, yes, they made some very, very bad errors, especially in the coaching department. But you still gotta, give them their props. Giannis played great. Chris Middleton stepped up when they needed him to. And they did the best defense they could. They played the best defense they could, and they're able to pull out this victory. Now the thing is, they're the favorites. They're the favorites. They're the ones who are healthy. They're the ones who have the most experience against the Atlanta Hawks, which we're going to talk about later. They should win the championship. They honestly, I'm not going to say they should, but they are the favorites now. Now they have this pressure. Can they get there? I would love to see it. I would love to see Giannis prove all the haters wrong. But it's time for them to execute. And it's going to be tough because Coach Bud is putting them in some bad situations sometimes. But I think, in other areas of coaching, I think he's still doing a solid job. He was able to pull out this win. Now in the Eastern Conference Finals. Congrats to them. Brooklyn, I think the thing for them is just trying to get healthy. Maybe try to get a reliable center. I don't know, but at the same time, as long as this team is healthy next season, I think they should be good. But relying on health is going to be tough in the NBA because I'm going to say this, keep saying this, but injuries are part of the game. I talked about it a few episodes ago. NBA is the survival of the fittest, and sometimes these injuries suck. But it's you can only play the team that's in front of you, and the Bucks did exactly that. The Nets tried, but it was just it just wasn't meant to be. It just wasn't. So congrats to the Bucks. The Brooklyn Nets, I mean, like I said, just get healthy. Let's see if they could do it next year. But it's going to be tougher because everyone's getting a year older. Obviously, those battles are going to continue to break down. I don't know with the stats of Kyrie and stuff. Don't know what they're going to do with Spencer Dinwiddie. There's a lot of questions this offseason for the Brooklyn Nets. But yeah, we're obviously going to do the awards. Like I said, we're going to be doing the series awards for this series. Going to start off with MVP. Plain and simple. We're going to go with Giannis Antetokounmpo. 32 points a game, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, 57% from the field. Yes, under 50% from the free throw line, but this guy was their best player. He stepped up, even at the free throw line at the final game of their series. He stepped up in a huge way, and man, this guy just played really good. And I want to talk about this with Giannis because everyone's gonna talk about the free throws, talk about this and that. He is not. People are like, oh, this guy doesn't have a lot of skill, yada, yada, yada. Look, Giannis is a 2-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and in a closeout game, Game 7, on the road, puts up 40 and 13. I don't want to see any Giannis slander because this guy, when the team needed him the most, he stepped up, both on the defensive end, being that rim protector, doing what he can on James Harden and Kevin Durant in spurts. This guy was fantastic. And look, he's not KD. He's not LeBron in the sense where you can just give it to him and ask for him to get a bucket at the end of the game. He's not that guy. But he is still doing so many aspects of the game well. He was dominant. He was efficient. He's just not any of those other guys, and that's okay. This is his chance to get a championship, and he just does it so well on both ends. He gets way too much slander. Look, this guy is like one of the most wholesome guys in the league. He does what he can for his team, and he performs. He performed in the series. Whatever that that Giannis narrative saying he doesn't perform in the playoffs should be out the window. He performed in the series. He did exactly what he needed to do, and he played like a superstar. You cannot fault him for that. So yes, you can't you can't ask him to get a jumper lane in this game. You can't ask him to do like certain things, and that's fine. But he is using his strengths very well. Even though he's not good at free throws, he's still, doing whatever he can to get to the line. He is not afraid of the moment. He just doesn't avoid it, and that's something he needs to be praised for. Not something that he should be bagged on about. He played great. He deserves he deserves all the praise. Congrats, Giannis. I have him as my series MVP. My bench player of the series, kind of tough to give to someone. I'm gonna give it to Jeff Green, mostly because of that 26-point performance in Game 5. But in the series, 10 points a game, 3 rebounds, 64% from 3, 50% from the field. He came back in the series when the Nets needed help, and he provided it. Although they didn't win, he still provided some help. He is the best bench player for the series. Most disappointing, again, I've been waiting to talk about this. Because, again, this is someone who I've been trying to defend the contract. I said I provided a lot of praise for this guy going into these playoffs. Joe Harris. Joe Harris is, for me, the most disappointing player in this series because they gave him that 4-year, $75 million contract. He played like one of the best shooters in the league throughout the regular season, and he did not perform in the playoffs. 9 points a game, 50% from the free throw line, 34% from the field, 32% from 3. They just can't have that, especially with the guys going down like Kyrie, like Harden wasn't 100%. They needed someone to step up, and Joe Harris couldn't do that. He just couldn't, which is highly, highly unfortunate. I'm a huge fan of the guy. But he was useless in the series. He was just absolutely useless. He had a wide open 3 in overtime to kind of extend the lead for the Nets. Nothing. He was just absolutely horrible in the series. I know it sucks for him. I know Steve Nash had to keep him in the game because of the fact that he's just a threat. But he was bad. He was bad. And the match with the fact that he's not a great defender. If he's not hitting the 3, he is rendering his value useless. And that's what happened in this series. Highly, highly unfortunate, but he is definitely the most disappointing player of this series. And then my favorite moment of the series, Kevin Durant, 49-point performance. He was absolutely fantastic in this one. Like I said, he really did try. He showed a bunch of heart, but it just wasn't right in the stars for the Brooklyn Nets this year. The injuries, Kevin Durant's performance, it just wasn't enough, sadly. And they lose this game. They're going into the offseason. They're going to have to make some changes. But I do think they're going to be back as a finals contender next year, just for them to keep healthy. But congratulations to the Milwaukee Bucks. They're going to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think it really does feel like that this is finally their best opportunity to get to the promised land. Oh man, I talked a lot about those two series, but there's still one more series we have to talk about, which ended over the weekend. It was the Clippers versus Jazz, and oh man, the Clippers pull out the win in Game 6 to down the Jazz and win the series, advancing to the first conference finals and their franchise's history. Now, this game was insane because in the first half, it looked like it was all Utah Jazz. It looked like, the Jazz were ready to play. It looked like they weren't going to go down. They're going to force a Game 7. It looked like it was going to be an easy win. And up to the point where in the third quarter, Donovan Mitchell hit the first 3 of the half. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's going to be an absolute blowout in favor of the Utah Jazz. But the Clippers were down 25, and they didn't give up. And you know who was the catalyst of that of that run? Terrence Mann. Yes, you heard me right. Terrence Mann played absolutely phenomenal in this game. This guy had to be put in the starting lineup because of the Kawhi injury, and man, did this guy have the game of his life. 39 points, 2 rebounds, 15 for 21 shooting, 7 for 10 on threes. Terrence Mann, not Paul George, not Reggie Jackson, not Marcus Morris. Terrence Mann. And the thing is, the way he was getting his shots is that he was playing the small ball 5. Rudy Gobert was protecting the paint. He was like, out of anyone on this court, I'll let Terrence Mann shoot. And he made him pay over and over and over again. And the Clippers just took advantage of Terrence Mann's hot streak, and they rode it out. Not only did they come back from a 25-point deficit, they blew this game wide open in the fourth quarter. And they won this game by 12, 131 to 119. Terrence Mann was a catalyst of this. It was one of the craziest comebacks I've ever seen. Mostly due to the fact that it was Terrence Mann. It was Terrence Mann was the one leading the charge. And his other teams, once that confidence started coming back, he started to gain the confidence of the players on the other on his team. Reggie Jackson, 27 and 10. Hit some big shots late in that game. Paul George, 28, 9 and 7, played another exemplary good performance. Nick Batum, 16 points, 6 of 9 shooting. And Pat Bev, when the game was closed late, you know who was the one who hit the daggers? Patrick Beverley, hitting 3 after 3 after 3 in the fourth quarter. And the Clippers got the game. The Clippers won this game. The Jazz had all the opportunities in the world. Donovan Mitchell, another great performance, 39, 9 and 9. Jordan Clarkson was absolutely fantastic in that first half. I think he had like 17 straight points in that second quarter. It looked like it was all Utah. But they just couldn't pull it out. They just couldn't. And the biggest reason is that they abused Rudy Gobert on a pick and roll. Like I said, Rudy Gobert was protecting the paint in a 5-out system. That meant one player was going to be wide open every time. The Jazz took their chances on Terrence Mann shooting, and he made him pay. Gobert did not look absolutely like horrible in this game. He just couldn't have the same impact. And when the Clippers went 5 and out in this series, that's when things started turning around. And the Jazz go down again in the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell, even after the game, was looking at the box score himself. He's like, oh my goodness, Terrence Mann only missed 6 shots. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And I think for the Utah Jazz, just going forward after the series, they just got to find a way to make Gobert effective in the playoffs. Because I talked about this before the series, or even before the playoffs. Rudy Gobert, over the last few playoffs, have been played off the court, not on pick and rolls mostly, but just by the fact that the teams that go against him just go 5 out, and he just doesn't have the speed, the agility to handle guys out on the perimeter. And it was the same scenario here again for the Utah Jazz. It feels like it's like, deja vu all over again. But it happened, and they lost the series. I'm not going to blame it all on Rudy Gobert. I thought that that Quinn Snyder should have made better adjustments. But at the end of the day, the Clippers saw a mismatch, and they took advantage of it. They knew that they were going to beat Gobert with Zubac. No way. So they decided to use Terrence Mann at the 5 position, and it worked out. It worked out. Congratulations to the Clippers. Paul George showed why he is why he doesn't deserve as much hate as he did. Was an absolutely fantastic leader in those final 2 games where Kawhi wasn't there, and the other guys stepped up. Plain and simple. Reggie Jackson was signed to a minimum deal this season. He's definitely gonna get some money now. Terrence Mann is now becoming a household name among NBA circles. It was just a crazy, crazy performance, and the Jazz just once the Clippers started taking advantage of it, they just kept letting him do it. Didn't make the right adjustments. Gobert was abused. Crazy series, but the Clippers were able to come out to win in a highly, highly impressive last 2 games, especially without the star guy in Kawhi. shout out to the Clippers, man. They played absolutely fantastic. And the Jazz got to make some moves this offseason, but I think mostly more than anything, um, they got to find a way to make Gobert a lot more useful in the playoffs. And I think I'll concede the fact now that I said like before the series that Gobert is the most important player to the Jazz. Yeah, it's Donovan Mitchell now, and I'm not saying that Rudy Gobert is just not important anymore, because I think that they're gonna be near the bottom of the playoff picture if Gobert's not there. But in the series showed me that look, the Jazz needed some offense to be created. Donovan Mitchell was the guy. He set everyone up. He is a superstar, and yes, he is their best player, most important player. They finally had Mike Conley in this game. He really couldn't do much. But yeah, it was just a rough outing for the Utah Jazz. And look, they're still young. They still have time to fix this, but they really need to, find ways to make Rudy Gobert more effective come playoff time. Now we're going to go into the series awards. MVP, we got to give it to Paul George. 29 points a game, 9 rebounds, 9.5 rebounds, almost 5 assists, 42% from 3, 44% from the field. He was fantastic, and like I mentioned, this guy showed leadership qualities in this, like when Kawhi Leonard went down, and you just gotta show him some props, man. You gotta show this man some props. I mean, for all the hate he gets, I wouldn't say silenced the critics, but he definitely showed his worth. He definitely did show his worth. He played absolutely fantastic. Congrats to him. He is this series. For the best bench player, you know where we had to go. Terrence, man. Fantastic. I mean, yes, his best play did come from when he was in the starting lineup, but in terms of the series, 10 points a game, 2 rebounds. But obviously, everyone's going to remember that 39-point game in this. Game 7, 39-point game, Terrence Mann game. Biggest game in Clippers history, moment in their franchise history. So, congrats to him, Terrence Mann. A guy who was undrafted, a guy who was in the G League, a guy who was forced into the starting lineup due to injury. He showed up. He absolutely did show up. Congrats to him. Congrats to the Clippers. He is definitely going to be the best bench player for this series. I was going to give, if I really, I did that as really a joke, but I'm probably just going to give it to Jordan Clarkson, 60 points a game. He did his thing, plain and simple, but again, the Jazz can pull out the win. Most disappointing player, I mean, this was tough. I mean, this really was tough. I could possibly give it to Rudy Gobert, sure. But, I think it was just a unfortunate circumstance. I guess I'll give it to Georges Niang because he was actually solid for them up throughout the season. But he gave them absolutely nothing in the playoffs. 0.8 points per game. He played about 10 minutes a game, 50% from the field. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. And then my favorite moment from the series, plain and simple, Terrence Mann 39-point game. He is etched in NBA history now. That performance, he's etched in Clipper history. He's an absolute legend for them now. Such a fun game to watch. I have to watch those highlights again because honestly, watching that series or that game, seeing him play the way he did, you just can't help but smile. You just can't help but smile, especially because they had no Kawhi and they were still able to pull out these wins. That game was just a fun watch, man. And, congrats to the Clippers. They absolutely deserve this win, 100%. And like I said, the Jazz, they have some questions. They need to provide some answers because I think they're on the cusp, but they just need to figure out just a few more things. And I think you got to keep Quinn Snyder around because there's improvement there. Donovan Mitchell, I mean, you could tell after the game that he was frustrated, but at the same time, I think he's going to use it as motivation to do well going forward. So, congrats to the Clippers. Jazz need to definitely have to look at things this offseason. Before we get into the other news and notes, now that all the second round series are over, we now know the two conference finals matchup. Should we start in the East? Should we start in the West? I'm gonna start off in the East because the Eastern Conference finals is now set starting on Wednesday night. We're going to have the Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Atlanta Hawks. And, man, like I said, the Hawks, I think they played absolutely fantastic this playoffs. Trae Young, absolutely amazing. And somehow, some way, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals in the first season of the Trae Young era. They're going up against a Milwaukee Bucks team who just defeated the Brooklyn Nets. Giannis playing off an amazing series. And the thing is, I mean, they're healthy. Both these teams are relatively healthy. I mean, the Hawks are missing DeAndre Hunter, so yeah, that's still a big loss. But I still think this is going to be a fun series. This is going to be a fun series. Obviously, the Bucks are favored, and and I'm definitely going to be leaning that way for my prediction. But the key to the series is for the Atlanta Hawks is trying to find a way to minimize Giannis as much as possible. And the thing about this team compared to other teams is that maybe you could do hack a Giannis, but the thing is, no matter what, and we've seen it throughout the last series, even when someone will try to employ that strategy, he welcomes it. He'll stay aggressive. He's gonna attack whoever is trying to guard him, whether it's gonna be John Collins, whether it's gonna be Clint Capella. He's gonna stay aggressive. Ben Simmons, once you start doing the hack of Ben Simmons, you take him completely off his game. With Milwaukee, Giannis is gonna invite it. He's gonna keep attacking no matter what, and he's gonna continue to play his game. For the Bucks, in order for them to win, they need to play through their best players. And I'm 100% sure, knowing Nick McMillan, they might go to hack a Giannis at some point. But that means that Chris Middleton needs to step up. Drew Holiday needs to play better than he did in the last series. They just need some more offensive production when they're going to be loading up on Giannis. We've seen Middleton do it in the last series and the series beforehand. So I'm confident he could do it again. Drew Holiday may be a different story, but he definitely still needs to play better. The Bucks are one of the best defenses in the league, and they have a bunch of bodies to throw at Trae Young now. And I think they can do well enough on the offensive end to pull out the series. For the Hawks to win the series, Trae Young needs to be fantastic once again. He definitely needs to be. What's going to be tough is that when you are going for lob threats in this series, you have to deal with Brook Lopez. You have to deal with Giannis, Middleton, all these lanky guys out on the court, which is going to be absolutely vital for them if they want to win. But I think the Hawks really need to do well from the perimeter. Bogdanovic did not play well in the final two games. They need him to be, second half regular season Bogdanovic. They need him to be a near 20-point per game scorer and hit some shots in the perimeter, because it's going to be very hard for them to get stuff in the paint. Kevin Huerter needs to be great once again, and John Collins needs to be a reliable outside, shot creator from the out. Not shot creator, but needs to be reliable from the outside, because it's going to be tough going inside. I mean, still stay aggressive, but when you have all those great defensive players on the Milwaukee Bucks, it's going to be absolutely tough to try and beat them from the inside. So yeah, what is my official prediction for the series? The Bucks have shown in the past that they have problem facing against young, shifty guards. But the Milwaukee Bucks, have all the confidence in the world after beating the Brooklyn Nets. So if I'm going to provide a winner, I'm going to say the Bucks in 6. The Bucks in 6, I think the Hawks are going to provide a good fight. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes to 7, because, the Hawks are just that type of team, and Nathan McMillan has his team playing absolutely fantastic. But I'm going to have the Bucks in 6. This is going to be the first time they're going to the NBA Finals with Giannis. This is going to be a good series. I still think it's going to be a fun, good series. But I think the Bucks are going to be more prepared than the 76ers were from last series. So I have the Bucks winning in 6. But I expect both these stars, both Giannis and Trae Young, to play absolutely fantastic. Now it's going to go to the next series, which is out west. We have the Phoenix Suns taking on the Los Angeles Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. I know Game 1 happened yesterday, and you know what? Devin Booker is just a bad, bad man. 40-point triple-double, first career triple-double for him. And he just took over late. Hit some big shots. Got some help from DeAndre Ayton, who has been dominating the inside of the LA Clippers. And I think that's just going to be something massive in this game, because Chris Paul, although he might be back for Game 3, these first 2 games, if they can get wins over the Clippers, it's going to be massive. And a big part of that is going to be them trying to take advantage of the mismatch, which is DeAndre Ayton in the paint against the small ball Clippers. Look, they tried putting Ivica Zubac on him in the second half, and it really didn't make a difference. He's slow-footed, and DeAndre Ayton is athletic and stuff, so it's going to be tough for the Clippers to guard that. But the Suns have to continue to take advantage of that. Devin Booker has to continue to play great like he did yesterday. The Clippers, on the other hand, I mean, they did play decently well. Paul George 34, Reggie Jackson 24 in that game. But they had a quick turnaround. They only had 1 day's rest. It was going to be tough for them to play well in this game one of the series. But that's fine. But they need to get one in Phoenix. I think that's incredibly important for them in this, and they just need more help than just Paul George and Reggie Jackson. What was cool in this game is that Boogie Cousins actually helped out quite a bit, 11 points in the second quarter. But then he got frustrated, and they just really didn't play him the rest of the game. But the Suns played great defense. They got some good contributions from players up and down their roster: Cam Johnson, Cam Payne, Crowder, even Mikal Bridges hit some shots. I mean, it was a great all-around effort, even though Booker was just phenomenal. They just had a good all-around effort. But what's the key to the series for both these teams? For the Clippers, they need to continue to just hopefully to get some just production from the other guys, because it really does seem like Kawhi Leonard is not going to be back this series. It really doesn't feel like it. So Paul George has to continue to be a good leader, and the guys around him just need to continue to play well. Marcus Morris needs to play better than what he did yesterday, only scoring 6 points. They need a bit more from players like Rondo, from Luke Kennard, just stuff like that. They just need to get just better production off of them. And it's going to be tough because the Suns team is really deep, very good defensively. But, they did it against the Utah Jazz. But it's definitely going to be tough against this Phoenix Suns team, especially because DeAndre Ayton is not Rudy Gobert. This guy is a lot better defending at the perimeter, and he gives sort of that similar rim protection threat. Maybe not nearly the same as Rudy Gobert, but he still gives that. So it's definitely going to be a tough series for them, but they need to get just more production from the guys outside of Paul George. For the Suns, they have to run things through Devin Booker, and guys need to be ready to shoot when asked upon. Mikal Bridges needs to be ready for catch and shoot opportunities. DeAndre Ayton needs to continue to be aggressive on the rim, especially if they're going to be starting Nicholas Batum at center again next game. DeAndre Ayton needs to take advantage of that. Even if Zubac is in the game, use your athleticism. Don't go over him. They need to continue to use Ayton as a viable option. And of course, front things to Devin Booker. Obviously, the Clippers next game are going to throw everything they have at him. But he's shown last night that he can make great decisions. 11 assists and only 2 turnovers. He was absolutely fantastic. And I expect that to happen throughout the entire series. And you could tell it, at least in the last game, that even without Chris Paul there, they adapted a lot of his mannerisms, adopted a lot of, Chris Paul type composure in that game, and they were able to pull it out late. But just keep the boat afloat until Chris Paul comes back, which apparently they're actually optimistic that's going to be pretty soon. So that's good for them. But in this series, even before the game, I had the Suns winning. If Kawhi was healthy and stuff like that, I would have the Clippers in 7. But I honestly do not think Kawhi is going to be back in this series. I think the Suns win this series in 6, maybe even less, depending on how well they can play next game. Because if Chris Paul is back for Game 3 and they're up 2-0, this could be pretty bad for the Clippers. But the Suns haven't been there in a while. The Clippers have a slightly more experience with the guys on their roster, but we're going to have to wait and see. I have the Suns winning in 6. Sadly, the Kawhi factor is a big reason why I have the Clippers losing, but I mean, like I said, injuries are part of the game. You just got to deal with them. I don't think this Clippers team has nearly enough talent to deal with the Suns team, and with Chris Paul coming back possibly Game 3, it's going to be absolutely tough for the Clippers to overcome that. So, Suns in 6, I think would be my final prediction. Even I'm not even taking account of yesterday's game. I tried my best to when I was making my notes for this to do this before yesterday's game, and I said Suns in 6. But I'm feeling good about it. And maybe it might go even less. Who knows? But yeah, it's gonna be a fun series. Hopefully it goes really well, because that game yesterday was absolutely fantastic. If the games are like that throughout the series, I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it. So yeah, my final prediction: Suns in 6. Oh boy, this is a long episode. Hope you guys are enjoying this. Let me know what you think of all these playoff series. What are your predictions for the conference finals? Let me know down below in the comment section of the video, of the Instagram page, whatever. Now we're going to go to the other news and notes. And what sucks about this is like I didn't want this to be a super long episode, but there's just too much to talk about because over the weekend there was a trade that occurred, and it involved Kemba Walker being traded from the Boston Celtics along with the 16th pick this year in exchange for Moses Brown, Al Horford, who is returning to the Celtics, and the 2023 second round pick. Hopefully, I don't go too long on this, even though there's actually quite a bit to talk about. But really, for the Celtics here, what they just want to get off that Kemba Walker contract, man. They have to pay him like what 70+ million over the next 2 years. Like next year is a $36 million deal, and then the year after that is a player option for $37 million, which he's probably gonna take. Yeah, the Celtics did not want to pay that. And in this trade, they addressed their big man issue. They brought in Al Horford, who returns to the team. And luckily for them, they're saving like what 11 million in cap, which is pretty massive. Yes, they're giving away the 60th overall pick, but they already have two good money guys on their roster. I mean, I don't think they need another young prospect to add to that team. But they bring back Al Horford. They get a second round pick again. And then Moses Brown. I mean, people don't realize when Moses Brown, undrafted guy, brought into the Thunder mid-season, and he showed some promise. He really did. In the 2 games against the Celtics, he had 15+ rebounds. Just throughout the season in general, he averaged 9 points and 9 rebounds a game. That's big. That's big time for him. I mean, he's a 7'2" guy. He's a bit lanky, but he plays good defense, and he just gets a lot of boards, which is something that the Celtics were lacking. And he's semi-athletic a little bit. But yeah, it's another great. I think it's a great trade for both teams. Again, the OKC Thunder got another pick. They got another pick. But I think what they're hoping for is, one, if they can't trade Kemba before the season, maybe they could do the sort of thing like they did with Chris Paul, kind of revive his career and up his trade value, then trade him. But the OKC Thunder getting more picks. I hear some possibly they can make a big trade come the NBA draft. Who knows? Depending on what they get if they get the number 1 pick or not. But they have a lot of draft picks, and like I said, if they don't use these draft picks to make a massive move to get a disgruntled star or something, it's all going to go to waste, I think, for this Thunder team. But I think Sam Presti knows what he's doing. He has a nice young core there. Hopefully they can get like a top 3 pick to help improve that roster. But now they have more draft capital. They could pull off some big trades, I believe, in the future. I really do believe so. It's going to be interesting to see what the Thunder do 100%. If I had to give a trade, I give OKC an A- on this trade. If they don't trade Kemba Walker before the season, like I said, they could try to help rehabilitate his career. And they get more draft capital, so that's still pretty good. And they were able to get off the Al Horford contract. Sadly, they get to get rid of Moses Brown, but I think OKC is fine with that. And for Boston, I have to give them an A for this. Yes, they traded away the 16th pick and Kemba for Al Horford, Moses Brown. But they addressed a big issue, which is their big man. And they're saving some money on the Kemba Walker deal, which is really, really good. So, yeah, really, really, I think it's a good trade for both teams. I completely forgot that teams that are not in the playoffs can still make trades. So seeing this trade happen really threw me off guard, but it's nice news to have. So, yeah, Kemba Walker in the 16th pick going to OKC. Al Horford back in the Celtics uniform. Hopefully, this means that the Celtics can, shore up that center position now. Now they kind of have too many. I don't know if they're going to be trading Al Horford or not. If they're going to be trading Moses Brown or not. But now they have Taco, Robert Williams, Al Horford, and Moses Brown. So, yeah, 4 centers. It's going to be interesting, but we're going to have to wait and see what they do with that. Other news that happened yesterday, James Jones was named Executive of the Year after making moves to make the Suns the number 2 seed in the West, 51-21 record. That Chris Paul trade was a godsend. They have a great chance of going to the NBA Finals now, which is absolutely crazy. Well deserved Executive of the Year. I mean, there's no stats and stuff that you can say that can change things about it, but he made the right moves. He brought in Jay Crowder, brought in Chris Paul. Massive, massive moves. Congrats to James Jones for winning Executive of the Year. And then finally, to cap off this episode, we got some Team USA commitments for the Tokyo Olympics this summer. 5 guys already committed to the team. We got Kevin Durant, we got Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum, Draymond Green, and Bradley Beal. The team's looking good, man. The team is looking good. I have a feeling that some guys are not going to take this opportunity because of another short off season. But Team USA is already looking stat. I mean, in terms of buckets, you already got Bo, Tatum, Dame, and KD, so that's not going to be an issue. And going into the Tokyo Olympics, I mean, it's Team USA. They're going to be the favorites every single time. It's going to be interesting to see who else commits to the team this summer. But if there's one thing I want to see happen, bring back Olympic Melo. Sure, he's not the Melo from old, but I think he should be just a staple of USA basketball. Bring him in, even if he doesn't play many minutes, just have him at the end of the bench. They need to bring in Melo, man. They just need to bring in Melo. Gonna be interested to see who else, like I said, who they bring in. But they should be favorites. They should 100% should be favorites. And they're going to put on a show. They're 100% going to be putting on a show for the world to see. And you love to see it. You love to see just the best players, playing for their team. It's absolutely great to see. But yeah, that is all the other news and notes. Let me know what you guys think. But I think this is where we're going to end things. Thank you guys for watching or listening. Remember to show love on all the podcast channels. Like, share, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Remember to follow TV on Basketball on all my social media platforms. Going to be back on Friday with another episode. Maybe a guest or not. We're going to have to wait and see. Again, thank you guys for all the support. Almost 3,000 downloads on the podcast. I really do appreciate all of you. And yeah, lots of great NBA content coming up. The draft lottery is tomorrow night. And I made a bet with a couple of friends. If the Raptors get the number 1 overall pick, I'm going to be dyeing my hair red. I am going to be dyeing my hair red. It's going to be definitely interesting. It's going to be, I think they have like a less than 5% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. So it's going to be definitely very unlikely. But I made the bet. I made my bet. If the Raptors get the number 1 pick, I have to dye my hair red. That's going to be very, very interesting. But the NBA draft is NBA draft lottery is tomorrow. I'm trying to set up a live for someone to go on live with me during the NBA draft lottery. So we'll have to wait and see. But again, thank you guys for all the support. And I think this is going to today's episode. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Hope you all have a fantastic day. TV signing out. Take it easy, guys.